Hi, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about balanced lists and preparing to apply in October. And this is for students who are applying to the US. So if you are not applying to the US, this is probably not applicable for you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as we come to the end of the school year, we've got about a week left in school as I'm recording this. It's June 12th, Thursday, June 12th, 2025. And we're going to talk about our June and July to-do list while you have your summer break or your vacation between this school year and next school year, and you finish D1 and go into D2. We're talking about first semester grades for next year, different ways you can apply to colleges in the US, including early action, early decision, etc. Then balanced lists, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so for the summer break or the June, July to-do list, first thing is to complete and revise your student strengths form. I'm just going to click on this so everyone sees it. This is a document that you should have completed. It was introduced in December. You should have completed up through like question 20 or something. I forget exactly where I had you complete to. Yeah, maybe 23, 24. I forget what it was. But your job over the break is to make sure that all of it is completed. So the full thing all the way through question 40. And um, that the questions that you've already done, that you go back and you revise your answers. And that's because I use this document to help me write your counselor recommendation letter, which really matters for applying to US colleges and universities. So you'll see here, this material is to help support you in planning for life after high school and in crafting your counselor recommendation. The information that's shared here really helps me to write a strong recommendation letter. So it's in your best interest to take your time with this, do this well, go back and, if, for example, your answer to this has changed or become more in depth, or this question, you look at your answer and you're like, I think I didn't quite explain that as fully as I'd like to. This is information that I might include in some way in my counselor recommendation letter. So you have some control here. So please take the time to do that. So that's the first thing. So make sure that that's done well. Teacher recommendations, ensure that all the steps are completed. If you're applying to colleges and universities in the US, you need 2 teacher recommendation letters. All of the steps are here. You can click on this and you can see, the steps are to ask the teacher, etc. You need to do all 3 steps in order to have this completed. And as I just explained in our in-person workshop, if you don't do all 3 of the steps, you're in danger of not having recommendation letters in time to apply early action or early decision. Most of the students will choose, most of you and your classmates will choose to apply early action and or early decision if you're applying to the US. So it's really important that you get that done. It's also a respectful thing to your teachers. You've been asked multiple times. They know you've been asked multiple times. They see the emails that I'm sending to you. So please make sure you're following up. Okay, previous transcripts, these are supposed to already be in your shared folder with me, but if you're not sure, again, click here. You can read, check where it says upload a copy of your previous school's transcript. It has all the information here. So please go ahead and do those things. Supplemental essays, we talked about that in the last workshop. And if you're not sure where you're applying yet, my advice is that you draft 2 different supplemental essays that are used pretty frequently by students and that you will probably be able to use or adapt for your supplemental essays. And those 2 are called the extracurricular essay, so about extracurricular activity and why it was meaningful for you, and also the community essay. And again, a part of a community that you're part of and why that's meaningful for you. And this is linked in the workshop about supplemental essays, but just this is really quick and easy to find. So the college essay guy is this person, I'm blanking on his name right now, is a really wonderful person who puts all kinds of fantastic free resources on his website. So I just mentioned two essays that I recommend that you draft: the community essay and the extracurricular essay. And you'll see that there's guides to writing both of those essays here on his page, where he provides all kinds of great um, examples and resources to help you. So here you go, the extracurricular activity essay, a full guide to how to write that, and the community essay. So if you're not sure what schools you're applying to yet, these are two great places to start, and you'll probably wind up using and adapting these in some way. Okay. And then last, work on your college list and do some research and work on solidifying your college list. And we're going to talk more about that now. Okay, so one important note for students here at UWC East Africa who are finishing up their D1 year, and that is next year, your D2 year, your semester calendar will look different. The first semester will end around the end of October, and I don't have the exact date, but let's just call it for now either October 31st or November 7th. It could be the first week of November. And this is important because when colleges and universities that you apply to in the US look at your transcript, which is the most important thing that they look at, they will see, including grades from your previous school or for M4 and M5 here at UWCEA, they will also see all of D1s, the 2 semesters of grades, first semester and the one that's about to complete, and then they'll see first semester of next year. Every school that you apply to, whether you apply early decision or regular decision, they'll all be reviewing the same set of grades. So you know that the last set of grades that colleges and universities will see for the US as you're applying is your academic semester between August and the end of October. So it's really important that all of you understand this so that you know when you go into next year what grades matter for what colleges will see. Not that you should try any harder or less hard, but it's important that you're aware of this. Okay. Next up, there are different application options in the US. This is just a screenshot from the Common App, and I just randomly chose St. Olaf College in Minnesota, one of the most active Davis partners, really wonderful school. And you'll see that for St. Olaf, they have 4 options of how you can apply. Early action with a deadline of November 1st, early decision with the same deadline of November 1st, and then early decision 2 or regular decision, both with January 15th. So we're going to get into what do these different things mean. Excuse me. Here, early action. Early action means that you apply early. Typically, the deadline is November 1st, and you hear back the decision early, typically around the middle of December or the middle of January, depending on the school. And it is not binding. You can apply to as many schools as you would like early action. You know that for us, for UWC East Africa, like the other UWCs, you have a limit of 10 schools. If you're applying only in the US, that means 10 applications in the US. And you could apply to all of them early action if you want. Now, not every school offers early action, but for those who do, you can. Again, it's not binding. You apply early, they give you a decision, and then you decide between the ones you're accepted to, which one you want to attend. Early decision is different in that it is binding. Now, you apply around the same time, typically November 1st, sometimes November 15th or December 1st, but typically November 1st, and you'll get your decision early, typically by December 20th. And if you're accepted and the financial aid is adequate for you to attend and your family to afford it, then it's binding. Now, the asterisk or the caveat that I'll put on this is you get to decide what is affordable for you and your family. You and your family decide. So if a school says they're going to cost your family $10,000 per year, and you say that's unaffordable, then the college has to respect that. You can appeal and ask for more money, but ultimately, if the college comes back with a number that they say is whatever, it's $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, whatever it is, $2,000, and for you and your family, you decide that that's not affordable, then you can get out of that binding decision. It's important to note. So there's really no harm in applying early decision. And really, this is for a school that you really, really want to go to, right? Like this is your top choice and you would love to go there and you don't care about hearing from other schools. You're not able to compare if you apply early decision. Okay, then we've got regular decision. And regular decision is typically you apply in January and you hear back in the spring, typically by the end of March or so. And it's not binding. Like early action, it's really very similar to early action. It's just that it's moved, it's a different timeline, right? You apply, they look at your application, they accept you or not. If you're accepted, it's one of your choices. And if you're not accepted, then you're not accepted. But you hear back much later than you do for early action. And then rolling decision, rolling admission means that you can apply on a rolling basis and they'll review your application when they receive it. So not all schools offer this. In fact, it's pretty uncommon. But if a school does offer rolling admission, such as the University of Oklahoma, you could apply anytime when we come back for the new school year. You could apply in August or September. And typically, 4 to 6 weeks later, you'll get a decision. Not always, but typically. So the nice part about that is when you're ready, you apply. Okay, those are the different types of application options in the US. Next, we're going to talk about early decision and the admissions advantage. So you can only remember, you can only apply early decision to one school, kind of two, and I'll explain that in a moment, but since we're looking at this, and schools typically really give a strong advantage, not all of them, but a strong advantage to students who apply early decision. So this first one, look at Tulane. Red dot means the regular decision admissions rate. So you apply regular decision in January and you hear back in March, they're admitting less than 15% of students. Let's call it 12. But you apply early decision and your acceptance rate goes up to over 65%. It's a massive difference. So if you're interested in going to Tulane, there's a huge advantage in applying early decision. Grinnell also huge, over 50% compared to about 10%. And Northeastern's not a Davis partner, but the rest of these schools are. And again, if you look, Northwestern, overall admit rate is less than 10%, but for early decision, it's over 20%. Or for Dartmouth, or for all of these schools, massive, massive advantage when you apply early decision. Now, I'm not telling you should, I just want you to know the facts that applying early decision comes with an advantage. It comes with a disadvantage also. You can't compare schools and say, well, I have this offer from Northwestern, and I also have this offer from Middlebury. Which one do I like better? Which one's financially stronger? You lose that option. But it can help you get accepted into a school at a higher rate. So that's important to know. And I said that, yeah, there's really one chance of applying early decision, but if we go back in our slides here to St. Olaf, some schools have early decision 1 with a November deadline and early decision 2 with a January 15th deadline. So if either you're not ready to apply early decision 1, or if you're rejected from a school early decision 1, or deferred into regular decision, they say you're no longer in a binding contract with us, then you can apply early decision 2 to a different school. It can't be the same school. So if I apply to St. Olaf, early decision 1, they don't accept me and they don't deny me. They defer me into regular decision. They push me into the regular decision application pool. Then I'm free to apply early decision 2 to a different college that offers it. And not everybody does. Okay, so that's a little bit about how you can maybe apply twice early decision to a school, to two different schools, excuse me. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about balance in your applications. And this is primarily for the US, because the US is different. Outside the US, what they really care about is your IB predicted scores, and then ultimately what you score on the IB exams. But for the US, what they care about are your grades in high school up until the time you apply, which for our students, that would be M4, M5, D1, and the first half of D2. Those are the marks that they're going to look at to decide if they want to admit you or not. And we'll see that the recommendation is 1 to 2 likely schools where your IB score is higher than the average student who's admitted. And typically they're accepting a significant number of UWCEA students. 3 to 4 in the MASH schools range. And this is where your IB score is about the same as the average student admitted, and their acceptance rate is generally higher, typically at least 25%. 3 to 4 reach schools. Now, you don't have to have any reach schools, but if you want to, and this is where your IB score is slightly lower than the average student admitted, and or they have a really low acceptance rate. So even if, yeah, we'll see in a moment that some schools have an average IB score for accepted students of 40 out of 42. And even if you have a 41 out of 42, if the school only admits 10% of students, it's still a reach. It's just a numbers thing. Okay, so these numbers add up to about 10, and it depends on how many schools you're applying to in the US versus other places. If you're applying to only the US, then you could use this as your guidance. If you're applying to um, some schools in the UK and Australia and Asia, then maybe you reduce this and you only apply to 3 schools in the US. Everyone's list is going to be a little bit different, and if you want help figuring out how many likelies, matches, and reaches for you, then come and see me. Okay, next up, Miss Megan, the counselor in Moshi, and I thought about the fact that partner schools typically can be categorized into one of 3 categories: strong, moderate, and weak partners. And strong partners are typically schools who are admitting a lot of UWC students from the network each year. And they tend to give really good financial aid. Can I come find you in 5 minutes? Okay, sounds good. Um, so these schools typically are taking a lot of students, and you'll see at the bottom, um, some schools have they're really hard to get into still, right? Northwestern, for example, has a very low acceptance rate. We just looked at this. But they're a really strong partner. They're taking a lot of UWC students, and you can see of the 103 Davis partners, Ms. Megan and I categorized 28 as strong partners. And then moderate partners, you can see here some of the examples. And that's schools like Colorado College and Davidson. And these are schools that take typically about 6 to 12 UWC students that matriculate them, excuse me, that 6 to 12 students from UWC are going to their college each year. And they're sometimes affordable for students, depends on the students and the school. And then weaker partners tend to take fewer students, 0 to 5 students per year. Sometimes they have strong aid, sometimes they don't. And sometimes that weak financial aid prevents students from being able to attend. Okay, and you'll see there are schools here that are schools that our students who just graduated are going to. And just because it's a weak partner doesn't mean you shouldn't apply there. It just means your strategy with them might be a little bit different. Okay, so you don't want to apply to all weak partners because your chances of getting accepted and having an affordable option is pretty slim. So you're gonna have to spread these out and have some stronger partners. And then you can also have some moderate and weak partners. Okay, now we created this tool, this is new, to help students and families figure out what places are you're likely to be a reach or a match or a likely for. And one thing I just want to say, and I said this to the students in the workshop a little while ago, is that first of all, it really, you can have a fantastic education at any of the schools that are Davis partners. The fact that our students get to go to college or university in the US, typically with fantastic financial aid packages, is just unheard of and not to be taken for granted. And whether a school admits a lot of students or few students, whether a school has an average accepted IB score below or above yours, it doesn't matter. It's about what you make of it. And please be mindful of the fact that all of these schools are amazing places and to celebrate everyone's victories when they get accepted to places. I say this because some of the D2 students told me, who just graduated, that sometimes they would hear from peers when they were accepted to a school that might accept more UWC students, oh, that's no big deal. Like, who cares? Everyone can get into there. And it was belittling, and it wasn't helping them celebrate a fantastic experience and victory and accomplishment. To be accepted to any college or university is amazing. So please be mindful of that. Okay, so coming down here, some other information that's important to know. Score ranges listed here are minimums to be competitive, and many admitted students score above and sometimes below these numbers. This is reflecting only IB grades, and we know that colleges and universities are looking at other things, your extracurriculars and your essays and your recommendation letter. So this is just talking about average IB grades. It's looking at the average of the first 3 semesters for a student. So we take the number out of 42 for the first 3 semesters and we average it. That's how you can do the same for yourself. And then we talk a bit about likely match and reach. And also, unfortunately, ability to pay can affect admissions at some colleges. Not always, but some. Last thing, if it has a asterisk, I'm struggling with that word today, next to the school name, it means they offer engineering. Okay, so the schools in this box here are schools that, on average, are admitting students with a 28 out of 42 or below. Again, this doesn't mean that they're not rigorous, amazing places. In fact, we have students who just graduated we have a student who just graduated from Methodist University who is going to work at Goldman Sachs, one of the most well-known and coveted jobs for recent college graduates possible if you're in the world of finance. And many times students think, well, you have to go to an MIT or a Harvard or Stanford to get a job at Goldman Sachs. And no, you can go to any school and have a great experience and be ready for being really competitive in the job market, depending on what you do when you're there. And that student had an internship at Goldman Sachs, and she impressed them. We have another student going to graduate school at Wake Forest after graduating from Methodist University. So, you can do great things at any school. It's what you do there, right? So just because they take a lot of our students or take students with scores that are lower, that does not mean anything about the quality of the education. Okay. So here's schools that typically are admitting students with grades in this range, 29 to 32. I'm just going to pause here for a minute, 33 to 35. So let's just say the first semester of D1, you had a 34, and the second semester, you have a 35. Okay, so that puts you in this 33 to 35 range currently. The schools, in this bucket would be matches. So when we come back here and we're talking about how many schools did you apply to, right? 3 to 4 match schools, you know that you're looking in this bucket here. These are schools that would be matches based on your IB score. And if you're looking for reaches, it would be schools here in the next bucket up. And likelies would be here. And this is kind of the simplified version of it. And every student's a little bit different and depends on what you want to study and all kinds of little factors, but this is the most simplified version. And if you go, again, if you have a 34 for your first 2 semesters, and you're looking at this last bucket of schools with 39 or 42, these are going to be far reaches, meaning like you have a really slim chance of getting accepted. Not zero chance, you never know what's going to happen. I'm not telling you not to apply. I'm just saying numbers say they have a slim chance of being accepted, and we'll call it a far reach. Whereas, again, these will be the matches for you because you have a 34. These are the reaches because they're in the next bucket up, and these are the far reaches because they're 2 buckets away. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so again, this is averages. This is based on data that we have as counselors. Ms. Megan and Moshi and I made this, and we hope it's helpful for you as a way to think about, what's a likely and a match and a reach. If you have questions, then you come and see me. Okay, so we were here, and that is the end. So if you have further questions, you know how to find me, and hope this is helpful. And this is our last workshop of the D1 year. So I hope everyone has a fantastic vacation and look forward to seeing you when we come back in August. All right, have a great day. See ya.